Hello and welcome to Mad Old Goes Racing and a look at the latest update for Automobilist 2, and this is the version 1.2.3.1 to 1.2.4.1, which is the latest version, and a quick rundown of the release notes, content, and this is the big bit. Added a Monza featuring the modern GP, the Junior, the 1971 GP, the 1971 Junior, the 1971 10km, and the 1971 10km without chicane, or they should be chicanes, because there's two of them. The 1991 GP layouts, all part of the Monza DLC package. Now, I'm not sure, but I assume that's included in the premium track pack, but don't quote me on that because I haven't actually managed to find anything to say yay or nay on that, but it's £8 if it's a standalone, or it's part of one or other, or both of the packages, either the track pack or the season pass, so should be more than one way to get hold of them. Right, General added support for the Thrustmaster SF1000, implemented real weather API for 5 days in the past and 4 days in the future from today, improved status messages related to real/historic weather availability, fixed real historic weather for circuits that lay in half-hourly time zones. Awkward people. Real weather now uses real/forecast data for wind speeds. Added a real weather database for Monza and Salvador. Updated recent historic weather data for all other locations. Fixed error in Caribita real weather that was causing weather data not to be found by the game. Fixed a valid weather API response failing to parse in some cases. Fixed a case where a weather API call wouldn't be made when it should. Fixed championship editor not persisting mandatory stop setting correctly. UI and HUD reorganised and refreshed session overview and pre-event leaderboards to increase number of rows and allow grouping by class. All in-game environment information, time, temperature, etc. is now updated live on all screens. Added event session information, current vehicle setup and current pit strategy to session overview and pre-event screens. Fixed lobby page starting in a wrong state. Fixed per vehicle FFP input on setup screen not capturing a mouse movement. Fixed pedal bar overlap on telemetry HUD. Adjusted loading screens to show real weather icon when appropriate. Physics. Further minor tyre tread adjustments for GT3, GTE, Stock V8, Formula Ultimate, Formula Reza, Formula V12, Formula Classic, DPI and P1 cars. Stock Car V8 2019, a minor aero revision. Formula Ultimate added custom track ERS maps, optimised boost for straights in all GP layouts. Corrected extreme weather tyre tread for Formula Race and Formula Ultimate. Ultimate GTR race revised default setup. Adjusted parked FFB forces for several cars to reduce rattling while standing still. Increased default steering lock setting for several cars with high steering rotation. Improved AI overtaking logic. Improved AI behaviour when behind a slower car in practice/stroke qualifying sessions. Adjusted AI lateral movements for smoother, more natural reactions. Decreased AI performance in 70 to 100% strength range. Improved AI blue flag behaviour. Adjusted AI brake power and grip. Various adjustments to AI overtaking parameters. AI corner and straight line calibration at passes. Adjusted AI wet launch performance for GTs and Formula Ultimate. Taruma adjusted AI line to keep AI from leaving the track at T7 entry. Fixed duplicate Formula Ultimate driver Patrick Deganu. Sorry if I mispronounced that. Patrice, sorry. Minor GT Classics AI adjustment. Audio updated a grass roll sample, so now when you're rolling your grass it sounds slightly different. Fixed issue where skidding on grass at high speed could trigger tarmac skidding sounds. Formula Ultimate fixed. Oh, fuck's sakes, hang on a minute. Bloody people shouting up the stairs at me. Where was I? Fixed issue where skidding on grass at high speed could trigger tarmac skidding sounds. Formula Ultimate. Fixed missing exhaust sound for local reverb. Opala, all variants. Fixed missing startup sounds. Passat HC, hot car. Fixed low RPM sound mixing. Formula Retro adjusted startup sound. Formula Classic Gen 2 M1, improved sound loops, fixed missing startup sound. Montana, fixed missing startup sound. Fixed recently introduced issue with interior engine on sound on late 70s DFE engine. Formulas and polished some loops. Porsche RSR 74 polished all engine loops. Sauber C9 increased backfire off throttle, polished some loops. BMW M1 Pro Car polished all engine loops. Tracks, Montreal, minor lot adjustments, various 3D crowd lot adjustments, Hockenheim 1988 GP stroke short, moved rolling start location, vehicles, Formula Vintage, all models, detached the cockpit gear shift, adjusted the driver feet position on cockpit view, adjusted hand animations during gear change, Mini JCW UK, detached cockpit gear shifter, adjusted hand animations during gear changes. IVK truck added a driver animation, fixed cockpit camera, detached cockpit gear shift, fixed driver outfit assignment. Arc Camaro added dirt stroke damage texture, added dangling damage parts, changed the driver model, detached the gear shifter on the cockpit, adjusted the driver shifting animation, revised collision models, changed wiper position and changed the bonnet model to allow the bonnet to be detached when damaged, added the inner bonnet bits on cockpit view, merged the boot with the rear wing, adjusted the cockpit view to match the driver model position, changed the cockpit interior to make room for driver legs, fixed driver lods, fixed cockpit rear view mirror. In other words, just about every bloody thing on it. Metal Moro AJR, fixed missing gear indicator and LCD display. Stock Cruise and Corolla 2021 added livery overrides. Porsche RSR 74, fixed cockpit steering wheel pivot position. Formula 309, fixed RPM lights. Metal Moro AJR, new display layout, fixed car thumbnails. BMW M8 GTE, corrected RPM lights, Ginetta G40, GTS, GT5 even, and Cup, I'll get my brain in gear in a minute, add gauges glow, Corvette C3 added gauges lights, and that is the end of the reading. Now, obviously the big item is the addition of Monza as a DLC, and as it says, multiple layouts, 3 years, which is 71, 91 current. And I thought we'll have a look, not too slowly and not too quickly, around them. Now, the options for them are 10k with no chicane, a 10k with a chicane. Now, the chicanes are there before you enter the first turn on the oval, and they're entering the last, well, Americans will probably say the third turn, but the last turn on the oval. It's only got 2 really. Honest opinion, those chicanes are bloody horrible, so you probably never ever use it. The 71 Junior is more or less the same as the current Junior. I don't think there's much, if any, difference at all. And for some reason we go to the 91, but we'll go up there to the 71. Now, the 71 layout is obviously no chicanes around the road part of it, the sort of Grand Prix layout. Then we go to 91, where they've added all the chicanes in. It's interesting, first chicane, which is different to the current one. The second chicane should be the same, and the Ascari should be the same. If I remember rightly, the Lesmos have changed slightly for the newer version. You will notice between the 71 and the 91 that because of the way they added the chicane, I'll try and point it out as we're driving on. Actually made the first Lesmo slightly quicker. Junior for the modern one should be more or less exactly the same as the sort of 1970 version was. I don't think there's a lot of difference. And then the current modern version, I noticed there's no DRS sound, so I'm assuming they will add some DRS sounds at some point. Either that or they'll have options with or without DRS, I'm not sure. But the things that changed are from the 91 version. They've obviously put that horrible first chicane. Second chicane might be slightly tighter, and they moved the Lesmos back a bit for more runoff area, and that actually tightened both corners up quite a bit. So we'll go to the 10k and we'll have a drive round, and we'll have a slowish lap and then a not so slowish lap, hopefully. Let's see if I can manage that. Oh, we're loading. Oh, we're loading. We're loading. Now, they've put all this extra information up here, but I think something's just gone a bit dicky, because right front slick is apparently red hot. The left rear is sort of normal temperature, and the front left and the rear left are all over the shop, so I don't know what's going on with that. Can't say I've ever sort of had a lot of lot of cool to look at it particularly, but right, hey, not too now. Can I actually get us off the ground a bit further? Yeah, we'll go up here and see if we can manage to drive like this. One of two things will happen. I'll do it right, or I'll crash. Very gently out of the pit lane. Now the pits, the sort of 70s pits are, I'm assuming these are the pits that were built after the war, so they're quite open. Well, at least there's a wall along there separating the pits from the pit straight, which I don't think there was initially. Everything's quite nice looking, nicely modelled buildings, people standing on the top there, although one or two of them seem to be holding modern smartphones, which is interesting. I'm sure one of them was up there looking at his smartphone. Can't get away from people doing that nowadays. Right, this is where the junior course would go off. We're not actually going to look at it. It's fairly simple, it's fairly standard layout. Now, this is one of the two chicanes, and as you can see, if I just point over there a bit, it's a bit of a, yeah, that really is a bus stop, isn't it? So, bit of a pain, but I don't know whether you'd ever use that or not, frankly. Now, the banking is up to 45 degrees, I think, at the top edge, but it is, it's not a flat banking, it's a curved banking, so hopefully your car will find its natural place on the banking. Obviously, the faster you go, the higher up the banking you should be running, because of centripetal forces and all this sort of crap. It's far too complicated to try and explain, or put it another way, I can't be asked. So basically what should happen is, as you go around the banking, your car will find its natural position, so you shouldn't have to fight it too much, although it is quite a lot of forces involved in you driving around a banking like that. It's actually not as bumpy as I thought it was going to be. I know Risa have, because of the way they've modelled the tyre stroke suspension slightly differently to project cars, they've actually had to smooth out a lot of the track meshes compared with the sort of project cars type version, even though they're using the same engine, because basically you'll end up with no teeth because you'll be rattled around so much. But all in all, I think it's very nicely modelled. Plenty of stuff off to the sides to look at. Not that you should be looking at them, but you have to remember that Monza circuit is actually Monza, I think, is more or less an extension of Milan. sort of like they're more or less joined together. And the Monza circuit is actually in the middle of a park. And if I remember rightly, where is it? Over here now is a golf course. But it's nicely modelled, nicely textured, lots of little interesting bits and bits. I don't know whether these are just textures or whether there's a bit of... I didn't notice when I had a couple of laps earlier that whether or not the little patches actually give you a bit of a kick at all. I don't think they do. I think they're more textures than anything. And this is the second of the horrible chicanes. As you can see, you come screaming down a straight at God knows how many miles an hour, and then have to brake, go around and go through the bus stop, catch the number 47, and off you go. Now, as you go around here, I don't know if I'll be able to do this or not. You should see where the original circuit was built in 1922, and the straight that led down to the parabolic was actually more to the middle between the two halves, or the two sides straights of the oval part. So it's actually smack down the middle. If you look at the satellite image of the circuit now, you'll be able to see where it is, and I think this bridge actually goes... Can I do this? No, probably not. You can just about see the road down there, but try not to stall and try not to do anything silly. That's where it used to come, but it's now much further over this way. And the parabolica originally was slightly further this way and was much more of a constant radius corner. It wasn't a sort of tightening and opening out like it is now. The banking, although the original circuit was built with an oval and the other course, this isn't the same banking. They knocked the banking down after the Second World War when they went back to racing. They decided to rebuild the circuit, and the back straight from the sort of road course side basically went under where the end of the oval is now, out, and then went through quite tight right, then a slightly less tight right, back up the start finish straight here. And then as an additional circuit, there was another set of corners up here put in for Pirelli's test track. And Pirelli's test track was basically two long straights with two corners at each end of it, and the two corners at this end are still here. The ones at the other end, there's a road that goes across the park. I can't remember what it's called, but that's got the same name as the corners were called, so I'm assuming that's actually part of the original post-war track there. So as you go here, you can see where the banking is, and it's still there today, and it's actually effectively a national monument in Italy. So it's had a shitload of money spent on it to keep it in good nick, so it's still there, it's still in good nick, it's all in working order. They just don't use it very often. They occasionally let people wander around it, but not very often because it's quite dangerous. This here, where the right goes, this is where the Pirelli course used to go. So you come screaming up the straight, round this corner, this goes off at a bit of an angle, and then there's a tighter corner. Let's see if we can see down there, yeah. So you can just see where the other corner is, and that actually goes joins up with the around Ascari. I'm just trying to visualise what it looks like from above. Yeah, it joins up sort of more or less at Ascari. Now this is the Curva Grande. This was actually slightly altered later. It was made slightly tighter, and it's now no longer called the Curva Grande. It's called something completely different. I don't know what. I can't remember. Again, this is all fairly similar now. That I think that one has been moved back slightly. But it's like everything else. The modern circuit, there's a wall much further over that way now. So, safety considerations, there's two ways you can make circuits safer. You can change the circuit by moving the track in a bit, so your runoff area is extended, which is what they eventually did with the Lesmos up here. There's a house over there. The first Lesmo is much more open on this corner, on this course, than it is on the modern one. It's much tighter on the modern one because they've basically moved the Lesmos back a bit. And I think you'll find the second Lesmo slightly tighter as well, because obviously they've had to move it that way, so they've had to tighten this up. I'm trying to remember when they did that. They did it between the 1991 and the modern. So the 1991's got an even faster first Lesmo, because when they changed the course to put in the first chicane, the second chicane, they went from the straight and they went left and then joined the straight up towards the Lesmo, which of course meant the road moved that way. And because it moved that way, it actually opened up the first Lesmo. So the first Lesmo is actually slightly quicker. This is an interesting building. I'm not sure what the hell it is, whether it's an old church or something on the end there, but strange little building. But bit of an odd shadow there. But it's a lot of it's very similar to today. This is still here, obviously, because this is the are we going to hit ahead? Oh, duck! Oh, not quite. Oh, that was close. I thought it was going to take my head off. Obviously, that's all still there because, like I said, the oval is all preserved as effectively a monument. So we can have very cold tyres by the time we get there. But as always, this is where the straight came in from. Can I remember which button set was the back button? So this is where the Pirelli straight came in. If I do that, hopefully, there you go. You can see this is where it came in from the corner where you had to turn left. So this came blaring straight up here. I can't remember. I don't think it auto clutch on, so I had to be a bit careful there. That's where the junior circuit comes in. So this is where the junior circuit will join. This building here, every time I see that, I always think of the Italian job, because that's very similar to the much larger building in Turin where they drove the minis over the top of the building and hid behind it. So, weird fact. There are a few odd buildings in there. It's like, I don't know if that was a bicycle shed or something, but there should be over there should be another road. I think you just about see it. Yeah, more or less. That goes down the centre between the sort of the current start finish straight and the there you can just about see it, the other side of that billboard there. You'll see the road. That's the old original straight, and they actually moved the straight this way, which meant where you came down to where Ascari is now, you actually ended up with a slightly more open, tighter corner, and it's opened up now. Now it used to go up there and underneath the oval. I'm not sure if it still does. Of course, the original would have had the different oval. I think the oval was actually slightly different length. So the south curve, that way, is in a slightly different position. So the oval was slightly bigger in the 20s when they originally built. All of this information you can go on racingcircuits.info and find out. So, interesting entry to the screaming in at high speed straight into the pits. And would you want to be standing there as the car came screaming in? I'm not sure I would. Right, let's get in the car. Hopefully we're... Shit, where's my... Has it... Oh, that's better. It adjusted more than I thought it would. Right. Just go up a bit. Oop, wrong way, wrong button. I'll get the right button in a minute. Which button did I just hit? That's better. Centre myself a bit. I seem to have bollocksed up my camera positions a bit, but whatever. Bit of a lump on the way in. It's actually surprisingly smooth. I thought it was going to be a hell of a lot bumpier than this, but that was down to experiencing the Project Cars version, which is a lot bumpier. Just check I'm in top gear. About 180 miles an hour in this Type 72E. This is actually a bit, I mean, the E didn't come out until 73, so they're actually cheating a little bit. The 72 came out in 1970, so it lasted for about 3 years. You will hear a bit of scraping and banging. Watch that barrier if you drift out, because you can clip that, and it will result in a nasty spin. Bit of a lump there on the tarmac joint. Now this corner is a bit of a hold your breath and turn in, because with cold tyres you're probably not going to make it. And try not to catch the curb because it's dodgy. I will brake a bit early because I have got cold tyres, but there's a bit of extra tarmac on the exit there. Mr. Gear. There's more tarmac there, but it's actually almost doesn't come out far enough, or goes back far enough. Again, this sort of start to turn at about 100 marker, and just try and ease the corner as much as you can, make it as long as possible. Now, this is the real pain in the arse bit, is where to brake for the parabolica. And that's a lap. Obviously, if you're going to go through this chicane, it's quite tight. Am I actually in gear? No. That really is a horrible chicane. Made more horrible, and the one at the other end's almost identical. It's made horrible because of the curbing. It's quite tall, so that really is a bit of a moment as you go around it. Now, obviously, there's more than one layout of that, so the differences are obviously the road course. You don't go around the oval. You will have noticed there was a load of cones down the middle of the track, down the start finish straight, because obviously it uses the same straight twice. They're not solid. You can drive through them, but you can't knock them over, so don't go down there going, I want to make a spray of cones, because it won't work. Right. Obviously, the oval isn't available to be used by itself. I don't know if they're possibly going to do that. It would be nice, because there's something fun about just driving round and round in circles. The 91 course. Now, probably should select a slightly more 91 car. That'll be something there. I think it's the Gen 3 of 90s. Which one should we go for? That'll do. That'll do. Yeah, that'll do. Now, obviously, as I said, the circuit's changed quite a bit over the years. This layout is probably slightly more open in terms of sort of chicanes, although Ascari is the same. We'll drive around. Oh. Obviously the garages have changed because they're modern. Had 20 years to sort their shit out. Get on with it. Shall we go into a more... Ooh, have we got a more up in the air one? Might be better. That might be a bit better. Obviously more garages. The junior circuit's still there. Obviously you go round there to get onto the junior circuit. I think it's closed off on this one, so yeah, you'd have to run it separately. Also, I'm not sure if they put a barrier in to stop you going around the banking for this particular version, but whatever. I'll leave that for you to crash your car to find out whether or not it's working. There's a slight kink into the was it Rettifilio chicanes, whatever they're called now, and the chicane itself is a sort of multi-way affair, and you can understand why they took it out, because frankly if you go over that bit you're going to cause bloody mayhem, and in fact mayhem happened quite a lot. Quite lumpy curves on the exit, or on the apexes, and on the exit here. Noisy. You should notice the parabolic is on this one. Is it slightly tighter? I can't remember if this is where they tightened it up or whether it was between now, this 91 version and the current version. I think this might be the more open one. I think it might have been later on they moved it. But obviously they've still got barriers pretty close to the track edge in the 90 circuit, which, okay, motorsport is dangerous. I haven't actually checked the different seasons. I'm assuming they've got all the seasonal stuff on, but this should be pretty similar to the current one. The differences will be fairly obvious, as in there's no bridge now because they've knocked it down, and spotting your braking marker here-ish, depending upon what you're driving, of course. And I think this chicane isn't quite as tight, so it's a more open chicane. They've done the usual, but that means, because like I said, the chicane was put in so that it went left, and they actually moved this, so this is actually slightly more open than the 71 version, because you're coming in from a slightly more to the left angle. Bit of runoff, but not a huge amount, and obviously there's a bloody great wall there, and I'm assuming they weren't allowed to knock that wall down, hence the reason why they had to move the Lesmos that way. God, noisy. Okay, all really nicely modelled, very nice. Bit of runoff there with a bit of gravel trap. Don't get stuck in it because it will take you around ages to get out of it. Again, there's more runoff I think now. Nice trees, lovely looking trees. Same building here, still there. I think now, I'm not sure if it's as easy to spot now in the modern circuit, but realistically this circuit probably doesn't feel that much different to the modern circuit. Again, this should look more or less the same. I think there's a bit more barrier here and there on the modern circuit, and the barriers might be a bit further back along here. But it's like everything else. I mean, you drive modern circuits, miles of runoff and everything else, and you sort of go, well, please put some grass back in instead of this bloody AstroTurf. There's no sort of penalty for running off circuit. You cock up, you just run across some tarmac. I mean, sort of tarmac all over that. Whereas if you'd have run across it here, you'd have been in deep shit. Well, deep sand anyway. I hope they don't fill on with shit. That would be a bit messy, wouldn't it? Again, this is where the old junior circuit joins up, and not sure if there's anything behind us anyway. Oh, I can't see for the wing. For where the old circuit used to go in. Again, this rundown here should be fairly familiar because it hasn't really changed in the last 20, 30 years. Get over to think how far back 1991 was. Seems like a long while ago. But other than the barriers moving and a few more bits and pieces here and there, different lighting, etc. This should all be fairly familiar. Obviously, the newest circuit, much more tarmac runoff. I think, be coming up to a sand trap of enormous proportions at the end here, because that's what it looked like. Parabolic should be exactly the same on all three versions in terms of layout. I don't think there's any changes been made to the parabolic there in terms of any banking or how it runs out. Again, well, that really is in your face, isn't it? I'll probably make a complete and utter cock up with this because I really haven't practiced this particular circuit, so and the fact you can do that is why they got rid of the bloody thing. A perfect example of I would have killed half a field there, but I nearly forgot which circuit we're on there. I forgot about the second chicane. Don't run into that curve too much because it's shorter than it should be. That really is a horrible noise, that, isn't it? Curves a bit lumpy. As always, don't run over the gravel there. I do prefer the first chicane on this to the current version, but I don't think it matters what you do with chicane to the first turn of this particular circuit. It's going to be a clusterfuck basically. We'll have one more try at going through the chicane. Much better, but it's got a better flow through the chicane. I don't like really slow chicanes, as I may have mentioned once or twice in the past. So yes, really nice flow to the chicane, and the second chicane, like I said, I think is a slightly more open. I think it's also, did they move the second chicane back a bit? I think when they moved the Lesmos, they also moved the chicane back slightly and tightened it up. Don't quote me on that, but I might be right. Which also means I might be wrong. So, let's have a quick run round on the Le Modern circuit, and we will just go with a Le Modern car. Or modernish. Yeah, what the hell, we'll go with that. Let's make sure I've actually got the right circuit. How are we doing? 39 minutes. Now, of course, this should be everybody's favourite. It must be, because half the bloody online multiplayer are Really? Come on. Start, yeah. Why won't it start? Don't ask me how I did that. Weird. Right. Same garages as the 91. That's probably much the same. Does the pit lane look wider? Did they move the pit wall over slightly? I would have to back compare, but that does look slightly wider, like there's 2 lanes in the pit lane there. Whatever. Now, the one thing you will notice is there's a lot more catch fencing than the 91 version, for obvious reasons. All of this, all the barriers are moved back a bit. A lot more of this sort of stuff up the side here. Now, whilst all this catch fencing is great, it does mean that if you're standing on the other side of it trying to take pictures, you end up with this nasty blurry crap in front of it. Again, it looks really nice. Plenty of changeable foliage, shall we say. Nice trees. Gotta have nice trees. And this being the one that everybody knows, this is Le Chicane Horrible, or Max Verstappen's best friend. One of the two, I'm not sure. You know, take your opponents out. So, yep. My main issue with this is I can never get around a second bloody part of it. The amount of times you run out of steering lock trying to get round there side by side with somebody who wouldn't yield. My corner. Again, you can see where they've managed to make a bit more runoff area, and I think it was by tightening up the Curva Grande, which is now called something completely different. It's like that's no longer called the Rettifilio Chicane. Was it the Rettifilio? I can't remember which one's which. It's now called the first chicane and the second chicane. Really worked on that one. So loads more runoff. Now, some of this I think was done actually for the bikes. They were talking about having World Superbike back here, and they were going to put in a cut off through here somewhere. I think before this chicane, so it was going to go across and then sort of join up somewhere around the Lesmos. But I don't think they ever did it. But they have taken away the bridge, but there is a banner here so that a bit of advertising can be done. All in, it looks really nice. Now, as I said, I'm pretty sure they actually moved this chicane back further. It's pretty sure it's a bit tighter, a little bit more runoff on that side, but all of this on this side I think was added when they moved the chicane back. And again, like I said, they've moved this back, so the wall at the end I think is still there, but they just moved everything back because they couldn't knock the wall down, because presumably it's something historic, part of the park. So the wall should be in the same place. You should be able to see the wall over the back there, and this was all moved this way and tightened up, and you should notice that this is considerably tighter. It's also quite nicely banked. So as you can see, the wall looks like it's in the same place. Hopefully it is. And they just basically moved the track this way. So I have to say the grass does look really, really nice in AMS2. Try not to hump that curb too hard. There is a nice piece of curbing that extends quite well up here. I think it's slightly longer than the 91 version, so you can have a bit more of a play on the outside there. Don't overdo it, you'll end up in the dirt, and once you're in there you're dead in the water, so to speak. Now, it's still here. I think the trees are moved. Might have made the trees a bit bigger, so there's a little less visibility for it. I don't know. Might be the same. Now, have these barriers moved back or not? I don't think they have actually. I think it's still probably as narrow as it was in 91. I'm assuming because there's a bit of a cutout, I'm assuming what they did was they had to cut the track down to go underneath the oval, because the oval was basically at ground level everywhere else. So, nice bit of reverb through the tunnel there. So they had to put cuttings in and go under rather than raise be a bit of a lump in the oval. That wouldn't work too well at 170 miles an hour, would it? And then Ascari, which is the same as the 91 version, only the inside curb here is a bit more lumpy because, well, the actual curb you like to run on is probably slightly smoother, but they put these little nasty hillocks in for you to kill your suspension on. So again, watch the exit across here. There's a bit of runoff, but can we see anything behind us? Yeah, there's the old Pirelli straight, and that's where the junior circuit comes in, if I remember rightly. Yep, just there. Second gear. And no, I don't think there's a lot more runoff down the straight with the barriers than there was in the 91 version actually. So maybe it hasn't changed as much as I thought it had. I'm pretty sure that's more or less the same grandstand. What else? A few bleachers on the first part. Parabolica should be identical, and then up here we have the very latest bit of artwork. This is by Aldo Drudi, I believe, and that is the number 27 Michele Alboreto. Because the Parabolica has been renamed. No longer is it the Parabolica, but I'm sure it'll be like a lot of corners and a lot of courses, because it is an iconic corner. It will still be called the Parabolica by most people. Is this 6 or 7 speed? It's 7. We're in a break. Bit of traction control kicking in there. I have done that really nicely on this. You can actually hear the traction control cutting in. Where to brake? First flying lap, that probably wasn't too bad. Missed the apex by a mile. I forgot it was a lot tighter than the previous two circuits. Oops. Not a great line through Ascari or whatever. And there you have classic modern, if you like, Monza. Everybody's favourite, why is this car stalled here? Circuit. How strange. Well, that's probably a good place to finish then, isn't it? So, right, that's the latest build, 1.2.4.1. I think they've actually got the right sort of colours on the tyres up the top there now. They look reasonable. Front right's going to be fairly cold around here. So that's that. There will be the BMW 2002 added in a complimentary update, probably sometime in the week. The car was in the beta, but it was all over the shop in terms of settings and bits being added, because it was just put in without any real time being given to it. So it's going to have a bit of TLC, and it will appear sometime later in the week. So might do something about that when it comes out. So for me, for now, that's the latest build, and enjoy Monza. I'm sure it'll be appearing in every MP session all week at a location near you. So from me, for now, enjoy racing, have fun, and see you soon. Goodbye.